we're live.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the April 2020 podcast. Um what do you mean, Neo? What do you mean, Neo? It's May. What do you mean April podcast? Yeah, it's a little awkward, but we may have had some technical difficulties
My
when
mic
we
stopped
actually
working
did.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'll just be
This-
flat. Yeah. Um,
yeah,
OBS
so
Streamlabs fucked up. There you go.
So yeah, the we have to throw that entire recording out because it's unwatchable. It's a whole lot of everyone talking and then like suddenly like
Silence.
10 minutes of silence. It's like what's going on? And then we reply to the silence. It's truly riveting. But anyway, so I guess this is our redux of the April 2020 podcast. Because we actually have the due diligence to fix our mistakes. Anyway, so for this podcast, we will be reviewing Inspector. It's a show that came out. What season? What season it come out?
It was winter 2020 technically. Yeah.
All right. So, and it is 12 episodes, and it covers a girl named Kotoko. Was it?
Kotoko
Kodako.
Iwanaya.
Yep, Kodako.
And
Kotoko
she
Iwanaya.
I actually remembered a name. That's amazing. Anyway, she is the spirit detective, or more like the spirit moderator or
Mediator.
mediator, in which her job is to mediate problems that or solve personal issues and problems that
Effect
different
spirits.
different yokai or spirits are having. And yeah, let's jump right into it. What did you guys think of the animation, the art style, and all that? Visuals.
Oh,
Animation was pretty smooth for what it was. Like it's not. I wouldn't say it's 10 out of 10 animation. Like it's not super good. There's no way in heck I would compare it to like Studio Madhouse, like like season 1 of One Punch Man. But it was good. Like it was good for what it was going for.
Yeah, it has most of the animation is pretty standard fare that you might see in like a rom-com anime or something like that. It's typical city settings and pretty average looking characters for the most part, except Kotoko herself and the main villain, who is for some reason not listed on the characters page in Mal, so I don't remember her name. Uh,
Are
uh,
you talking about Rika, the cousin?
yeah.
yes, Rika, that's her name. Yeah, for some reason, despite being central to the plot, she's just not listed. But anyway, the uh the her everything's very smooth, or at least about as smooth as like your average anime. It's not there's nothing janky or like really low frame rates or anything like that. um and it all looks all right. I find Kotoko's character design to be quite well done. She definitely stands out among the rest of the cast. Uh, I feel like if you blacked her out and made her a silhouette, you'd be able to, if you have seen the show before, you'd be able to go, oh, that's Kotoko. Um, so yeah, the Nanase, the Steel Lady Nanase, well, that's what she was called, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah,
remembering
yeah,
correctly.
yeah. It was
Uh,
still Lady Nanase, and she was she was basically a Japanese idol who well, let's just say that she committed how should I say it, Minecraft, real life Minecraft because she was accused of offing her dad.
She and heroed. She committed not alive. Uh,
Yep. So when they were investigating her death, the ghost of a construction worker who had died in an accident. It's heavily implied because he's floating around. He's wearing his uniform, and there is a shovel or a pick in his spine. So he died somehow. Anyways, he says, "Remember her? I saw her death." And they ask, what'd you see? And apparently she was just in a construction site, just depressed. And then suddenly, the wire beam, or I'm sorry, the wire holding some what
I
do you call
beam.
it? Yeah,
I
high
beam.
beams. Yep. It snaps, and then one of the beams lands on her head, and she basically, as you said, commits an hero.
Yeah. Um. The But anyway, the character design of Steel Lady Nanase, the ghost, is also quite interesting, unique. She's basically like an idol singer, kind of character
Yeah,
with a blacked out face and carrying a steel eye beam, which is quite distinct. Very, it's interesting to look at. But on the other hand, characters like uh
Saki,
yeah,
Rika,
Saki,
Kuro.
Saki and Kudo, characters like Saki and Kudo are very plain looking. They look they look like very average anime characters. You could probably mistake Kudo for practically like any male character in some like pick a rom-com uh from like the past 10 years.
Honestly, that guy's not that interesting until you consider the fact that he ate a mixture of mermaid and kudai meat,
Yeah,
which are
we'll get
Kudon.
We'll
into
get into the
Kudon
plot
meat.
a little bit later.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's Kudon
Yeah.
meat.
But to jump in a little bit, so I enjoy a lot of the visuals of this. Like the more I'm looking at the photos, the more I'm like remembering how like well done some of the animation was. Like the animation wasn't the thing that like that drew me in. Ugh, cannot talk. Um, but it was more the uh the art style with a couple of the characters was good. I had issues with a lot of the backgrounds being overly purple and pink. It was kind of like that's anytime the spectral came in, you'd get that, but the normal day-to-day scenes were well done enough. I did find some of the spirits also uh, really well like represented, where you knew that it was a supernatural thing that wasn't just normally part of the world that almost no one could see. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, One of the better examples was with the giant snake. You could see the light emanating from it, giving it more of that spiritual kind of tension rather than just the giant monster that's there.
Yeah,
it,
even some of the other spirits, they have like really wacky sort of out of this world design, that some of the unnamed ones that I'm not sure if they're from real folklore, or not.
I
Like
know
I'm
that
not sure. I know some of them are definitely from real folklore, but there's like, they're like Pokemon. There's like thousands of them,
I
and they all look very unique. Go ahead, Striker.
well, considering that the raccoon, the Tanuki, uh, is a shapeshifter, I would say it's fun on that area. I did find the fact how should I say this, the dead kid with the baseball bat to be very interesting, especially when Kotoko tells him to get Saki on that one episode.
Isn't that a reference to another anime?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's Little Slugger, in a way.
Yeah,
Little Slugger from Paranoia Agent.
yeah. I, I,
Mhm.
I knew I like the first time I saw that I was thinking, wait, what was that? What was that other anime? Is that's supposed to
Yeah,
be the kid from that?
the funniest part is this in Paranoia Agent. I don't know if anybody who worked on this anime had any relation to that anime, but Paranoia Agent had an episode where there were two little sluggers and one of them was fake. And we'll get to that later in the podcast, but there's a twist to Steel Lady Nanase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll just go on a little bit more. A lot of the monsters, like like we aren't gonna know every single little thing whenever it comes to like legends and yokai and different monsters throughout Japanese lore. But like a lot of the characters, like remind me of like a little bit of the designs from like Yokai Watch. If you've seen any of those kind of things, like I'm seeing like all the toys and stuff, and I'm just like relating it to a lot of those kind of designs too. So it
Yeah,
seems to
the
kind of link together.
yeah the yokai in this show was fairly accurate. I mean, and the word you're looking for was Lewis was ningyo. That's the Japanese mermaid. So uh, the central point of the main character's ability is that he can see the future, and the reason he can see the future is because he ate kudon meat. Now, there's a price to pay. If you're either a kudon or a human that's consumed kudon meat, when you see the future, it's too much force for your body, so you die. So in order to fix that, the long lineage of the main character's family were attempting to experiment by having different children in their family consume, or different members of their family consume, both ningyo and kudon meat, because ningyo is a cursed meat to consume in Japanese mythology, because mermaids are immortal, and if you eat their meat, everyone around you dies of old age, but you stay the same. It's a curse of immortality. So by eating both kudon and ningyo, whoever successfully absorbs that basically can tell the quote unquote tell the future. But we'll get more into that. There's a fine print of there's a fine print in that ability to see the future. But yeah,
I find it interesting that it's been more of a trial and error thing because the only two people who survived that mixture are both Kuro and Rika, and we'll talk about that later on.
yeah. The there is a couple interesting things. One of them is the fact that uh Josh mentioned that there's a lot of like pink and purple hues whenever the spirits show up. These pink and purple hues show up whenever during the scenes when Steel Lady Nanase is like attacking people. And it would seem more appropriate to like use a red hue or something like that to make it look more threatening and emphasize the danger that the characters are in.
I think the reason why it ended up being kind of like purple and like pink is it matches her dress and her hair, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like her aura as like that. And then on top of that, if you have too much red, like if you do like reds and blacks, first off, that's like kind of like the stereotype, and then you kind of start falling into the issues that a lot of other animes get, which is if there's too much red and then there's blood, then it's really hard to emphasize how much blood.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's something I quite liked about this anime is the fact that they had they had it's somewhat gruesome because the characters Kuro and Rika, be- the way their immortality works is they actually die, and they die pretty fairly gruesomely. Actually, for 2010s or anime, or 20, well, we're in
2020.
2020
Yeah.
now, but for a modern anime, it's extremely gruesome. It's pretty tame by like 90s anime standards, but for modern anime, it's extremely gruesome, especially when the very much so Bakano style, where the blood gets slowly sucked back into their bodies, and then you see their limb, whatever was chopped off, reattached to them. Though it is notably a lot more uh, gruesome in Bakano than it is here. It's a little bit more tame here.
All things considered, it is made by the same people.
Yeah, like the only times that I can really even think of like anime getting that recent, like I can't even think of like really recent gruesome
Yeah,
animes.
Darling in the Franxx like had a teeny tiny bit of violence, but it wasn't even gruesome. And then there's I guess Promised Neverland, but yeah, I can't think of one either.
I guess the most recent one that I can even think of would be Parasite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Parasite, of
I
course.
mean,
Like,
the only one that comes to mind that's like particularly gruesome would be Bakano, but that came out in like 2009, I think.
yeah,
So that's not even recent.
yeah, I'd guess Parasite, but that was an adaptation from a manga from like the 60s or 70s or something.
70s,
So,
80s, 90s.
yes, like I can't remember whenever it came out. I could check, but like
If they
we're
tried censoring
talking,
that, it'd be a
yeah, we're talking like a really long amount of time that it's been since we've had an anime that's been actually gruesome that like you can feel in a way because like whenever you can see the blood going back into their bodies, whenever you can see them like slitting their own throats and getting their head bashed in, like outside of some of the like slapstick comedy ones, I can't think of one that's been like that gruesome.
I would
Yeah.
say I would
Even
say Chin is pretty much out there, but that show was out around the early 2000s, so it
yeah,
doesn't.
Yeah.
yeah, even then, like comparatively to like a lot of 90s and 80s and early 2000s stuff, it's still pretty tame. Like if someone gets their head completely crushed, you see blood coming out of the object, or from under the object that the head's being crushed by. You don't actually see like bone fragments and stuff like that come out of the sides or anything like that. Uh,
That's gonna be in my search history. uh, because I looked up like best gore animes, and it's like I guess like there's Attack on Titan with some of the stuff, but that wasn't like super gruesome outside of like some of the eating, but that wasn't like crazy. And then Tokyo Ghoul, which yeah, I think that would be the closest. Tokyo Ghoul, and then High School of the Dead was like 2010.
yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
Mind if I mention this real quick? But considering that the same studio that did this anime also did Durarara and Spice and Wolf, I wouldn't be surprised regarding some of the gory stuff that happens in this anime
yeah.
I get,
and
But
Baccano as well.
yeah. I just
all
looked it
right,
up and it said like another, and I haven't watched that yet, so I can't comment on that. So like maybe there's a few, but like yeah, it's kind of rare.
yeah, and that's it's kind of interesting to think about that because back when I first started watching anime, that's like one of the big things anime was known for. Like you were going to see some totally messed up and totally gruesome stuff. It was anime was like cartoons, but completely over the top edgy, filled with it was like stuff for like goth mall uh mall rats who just wanted to like be like the edgy teenagers and stuff like that. It was com- a completely different scene to like what it is today. But I think that is we are going a bit beyond the on the subject of Inspector. So let's move on. Let's talk about the sound design and music.
Ah, man. So I remember talking about, so just to kind of sum this up as quickly as possible. I remember talking about this, and all of us couldn't even really remember the soundtracks, and we talked about how like we could hear generic things. So it was the most basic kind of like
Yeah,
thing. Like it's so unrememberable. It's like we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember anything after like forcing myself to remember. So
I just
like
watched it an hour ago and I can't remember.
yeah, it's so bland, but it's kind of like you give it a 4 on like sound, because it's better to not remember sound than to remember bad sound. So it kind
Yep,
of just
yep.
took like the cheap way out.
Well,
Even the sound effect of real quick. I also got to notate on the gruesome visuals on top of the sound. So the sounds of people being, or I'm sorry, not people, the sounds of the two characters in particular committing suicide, Kuro and his cousin Rika. The two of them making squishing noises, cutting noises. When when Steel Lady Nanase, without spoiling for whoever might be watching, when she actually kills someone, which she does, the squishing sound of the face getting like slammed in. Um, it was like the generic sound you hear in every anime.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, like it's I can't even remember if it was like just a generic sound or if my brain is just remembering a generic sound over it, because it's just that's how it is. Because like I'm
well,
thinking of like anytime they pull out a knife is like the cliche like shing, like that's where my brain even remembers it, and I don't even know if that was there. So it, it's it was so kind of plain on the sound side. Voice actor wise, I watched it in the dub for the beginning, and then the sub at the end, because the um, dub wasn't fully caught up. And the dub was like very, very cheap actors, so it was people new to the game, and like starting to get their feet wet. Some had like partial roles, so it wasn't even high budget for them. A
Josh,
couple of
I
them
hate to
did a
interrupt.
decent job,
Uh,
but
I do have to say that Rika's voice actress was none other than Christina B. or
yeah,
Christina Vanzola,
the main
who
the main cast they're usually grabbing cheaper actors for, and then they'll like for like smaller parts they're grabbing like major ones to try and teach the smaller ones right now. There's some drama in the English voice actor community. That's the reason why they're training the new guard, um, and that's why this is happening. And this is one of the experimental animes for that. But the some of the side characters or characters that came in later that were training the newer people, just like they were okay. They weren't even great. I'd say the Japanese voice actors were beyond their level in every way, though. So
you know
Yeah, that was one of the few good things. Sorry, go ahead, Lewis.
what I found respectable, the fact that the guy who played Kuro also sang the ending theme, which is something that rarely ever happens. The only other anime that I know this happens is Kaiji. around the first season, the guy who plays the main character also sings the beginning thing.
It was common in the early 2000s. Not so common now. I'm just kind of checking this over. Yeah. Uh, Psyche or Saki had the Saki and Rika were the only ones that had um even like wiki pages for their voice actors. The other ones are uh kind of
Wait,
unknown
Rika had a wiki page?
for her voice actress.
Oh, you're not the actual. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Christina V, sorry. Um,
There's also Lauren Landa, who's
and she did
also
Saki. Yeah,
there's also let's see who else.
that's it.
Akari Kito, who never mind. Let's go. Let's go. So
Yeah. So it like I said, they kind of cheaped out. So yeah, I think we can kind of move on from the sound because it
we
wasn't great.
we can
Yeah,
we can we can talk a bit about the punching noises for that were also not that well
I
executed.
that's the thing is like I can't even really comment on
Yeah.
them because I don't remember them.
Yep.
And that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Like I said, you give it a 4 just because it's under the radar.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd give it a 5.
yeah. It didn't mess anything up, but it didn't enhance anything, which yeah, not great, not a good look, but it's passable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
medium at best.
Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about
Before
the
we do,
characters. Oh,
the violence. Okay. Um. So what I found odd is this, right? The times people's faces are squished in, and it happens more than once, and the apparition of Steel Lady Nanase is not the only one with a squished face. That's the only thing that gets censored. That's the only thing with a blackout area over it. Because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure had violent scenes where the violence was covered up with black areas. Anime in general tends to, like, at least Western release, you get my point. A lot of releases, they have this little blacked out area, like you guys mentioned.
Hmm.
The only thing that had the blacked out area was the faces of people that had their faces squished in. I thought that was kind of odd.
Well, it was just her, and it was part of the painting or the drawing that was uploaded to the internet, and that's what people were representing
Oh,
as
imagine
that.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
the
So
yeah.
so
painting.
yeah, it was part of that.
They actually they 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 had a lot more gruesome stuff. Like they had Ryuko or God, what was his Ryuko
Uh, Kuro.
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 Sorry,
Yeah.
God damn.
You mixed like three
Kuro being
names together. All right.
Yeah, I did. But anyway, they had Kuro like literally pulling an I-beam through his chest.
Yeah.
And then there's the
So
and then there's the fact that he got split in half, pretty much
yeah.
literally.
Now it doesn't have like details of like internal organs and bones flying around everywhere and stuff like that. Um, but it still pretty gruesome by modern standards.
Oh yeah.
And then
Um,
and then there's the first monster that looks like a minotaur that bites his arm off.
yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the characters themselves. So I think we can start with Kudo. He is. I consider Kudo to be pretty bland. Like possibly like even worse than Soichiro Arima. Uh, like he is like he is like the box he came in. All right, he is Kellogg's cornflakes.
He
It's
is actually designed to be a side character, except he has powers and he tries to hide it. That's all
yeah.
he is. It's like this is a side character. This is a person like he is. I think the idea of it is that you want him to look as plain as possible because he wants to try and live a normal life. He knows his family is fucked up. He knows everything about him is fucked up. And he just kind of is like, if I just blend into the background, if I can just marry this girl before she figures out that I can just never die and that my body will just heal itself no matter what happens, like everything will be fine. Like he's trying to live the life that he can, knowing what's going on around him is like really weird. So he's trying to be as plain as possible, and I think that even comes out in the character design, which is an interesting way to uh, like an interesting take on it.
He's basically Kira Yoshikage from JoJo Part 4, except
Yeah.
with fat.
He has less character design than the Ichiraku ramen team in Naruto. Like that's how plain he is.
The first episode, if the first episode turned me off so badly in the first 15 minutes, I almost didn't want to watch the rest of the show. Like, it was just...
Yeah.
Oh,
The dialogue was bad. The design, aside from Kotoko's design, clothing designs of the characters were boring. Dialogue was like weird,
The
and
pacing was
he was
slow.
boring. Yeah, and he was boring. I mean, I got excited after she explained who she is, and then she's on the bus, and then the spirit of the dead samurai shows up and says, my lady, that beast, was it like a bull? I can't remember. That beast yokai, he's still in the library. I just want to read my books in peace." And so, like, after that little funny tidbit where the screen goes like a dark blue, like that dark blue and purple are the two colors used for supernatural scenes in a lot of anime, I've noticed. Like when the place is getting like really cold and dark and ghosts are about to show up, it's either blue or purple. Anyways, so that kind of set the tone afterwards. Like, oh, this is funny. Like, he shows up, he gets killed, and at the end he does this edgy thing. He's like, I ate the meat of a mermaid and a like kudon. I don't know what an English equivalent of kudon is, but I know ningyo can also be called mermaid. Anyways, so his plainness was so plain that tiny moment before the credits hit on the first episode, I was expecting him to become, almost sociopathic and interesting, but no, that was just that one moment he just wanted to be edgy, and the rest of the show he's just the boring character who we met in the first episode.
Yeah, I find it ironic that Kotoko was the fun character, but her origin story, just RJ, you might as well say that we were talking about how Kotoko's origin story sometimes it just didn't add up in some areas. I mean, what happens after she gets she becomes an amputee? What happens after like?
Oh, did we mention that? Did we even mention that? So she had to give up her, I believe, her right eye and her left leg in order to become closer to the spirits, because there was a saying in Japanese mythology that a one-eyed being is closer to the gods. So, anyways, and about that, it's like I think I talked to you guys about this before in the previous iteration of this month's podcast. The sound effect where when she falls and her leg, the bionic leg she's wearing, pops off. It's like the sound of one of those like Russian dolls popping open. It's just like ridiculous. Even the animation of her leg popping off as her glass eye pops out of her skull in the intro. It's well, the leg happens in the show. The eye pops up with the leg on the intro. It's just cartoonish as heck. Like it's not like gruesome damage. Oh no, what will she do? It's like it's like Bugs Bunny violence, you know? Like it's slapstick almost. It's not, scary.
So I think I
Yeah.
figured out the best way to describe him. You know those harem animes where you never remember what the guy even looks like?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he is in a harem anime, and there's only two girls.
Yep.
That poor thing.
Well, that's our third one, but she's more family than anything else.
Oh,
Speaking of, we are gonna talk about Rika's
yeah,
sickly appearance.
Yeah, Rika, she's also immortal, just like uh
Kuro.
Kuro. Uh, she's also immortal, and because of that, she can't die even if she like stabs herself in the neck or something. Um, so she was intentionally starving herself to see if she could die. And indeed, she got very, very skinny, but of course, she's immortal, so she couldn't die.
see, I
Though,
must have missed that. I was wondering. I was like, why was she
Yeah, yeah.
always in the
I was about to
hospital?
say, wow.
Like, the fact that you caught up on that, like, I
well,
thought that she was
that's
just
why.
like sick from something else, and then like she couldn't really take care of herself. Well, what the fuck did I just
Well,
find?
she was at the hospital because they were experimenting on her, seeing if there was a in studying the the effects of her immortality. Um, and one of the experiments that was being run was starvation. That's why she's so skinny.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot more sense.
Well, there's also well, she did want to die, but she can't.
Yeah,
No matter how
that
hard she tries.
that clicked for me in the last episode when they were talking about um how she goes to she goes to extreme lengths to try to see if she can become normal.
And
Yeah.
then there's the fact that Steel Lady Nanose was more or less I feel like it's a projection of her of Rika picking up painting one day. And she started doing this this idol Haruko Nanase.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about Kotoko because she's probably the most interesting character in the whole show.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we should probably, you know, start putting up like all the good parts about the show, which is this one character.
yeah. So so Kotoko is she's she's pretty smart. She's but she's prone to somewhat irrational outbursts, especially when it comes to Kudo. Um, she for some reason that uh, it, we're left to not understand, she is madly in love with Kudo. I
Which,
don't know why, because there's no chemistry between these
she
two.
she was like when I first met him, he was so bland and boring, but intimidating, like a goat. Like what?
yeah, she's such an odd character, and then on top of that, it's like she's just like I find him dreamy and hot, and it's like that was in like the first episode, and it just I guess it's just that mentality, like I was saying, in like all the harems. It's like you have this very plain guy, and then just every girl falls in love with him. So it's just like she just fell in love with the weirdest kind of plain guy.
Dude. And then there's that. Do you guys know that scene where where Kuro tries to imagine Rika cooking for him, and then Kotoko starts cooking for him, but she's like doing this very assertive tone, including this part where she wants him to sleep with him, but just holding a pillow that says yes over and over.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I found I found her. It seemed like the way she solved some of the. Well, I guess there was really only one mystery before the main arc, and that was the one where they were trying. The snake wanted to know why a dead body was dumped in his lake.
Yeah,
Um,
he was very insistent. Like he felt very insulted.
yeah, yeah.
And for good
I
reason. I mean, why the fuck were they feeding him corpses? He hates corpses,
He
man.
yeah, he said long ago the people of the village near me, there used to be villagers that lived near his lake. In the translation, it's a swamp, but in the I'm sorry, in the Japanese original, it's a swamp, but in the localization, they call it the mountain because I don't, I guess they wouldn't, they would think that people wouldn't understand why there'd be a guardian of a swamp. Anyways, he goes, well, the villagers used to sacrifice people to me because they thought I could make it rain. Except I couldn't. It just happened to rain after they made the sacrifice to me.
yeah,
That
but
part
but
was
he,
hilarious, though.
but he was angry because he said, I'm used to young women being sacrificed to me, living, live young women being sacrificed to me, and this girl had the audacity to dump this middle-aged man, a dead middle-aged man,
yeah.
at my lake.
But anyway, I found it kind of obnoxious uh how she went about solving it because she basically already knew the answer, but she goes through like she goes through the scenario. It's like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Okay. Is that what really happened though? No. All right. Second scenario. This happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. But is that what really happened though? No. And this goes on for like what, 2 episodes? Where it's
3 or so.
just like seriously get to the point. You you have 12 episodes and somehow you're making filler. And I found that to be kind of obnoxious. Like all the characters, all the dialogue in this show is extremely long-winded, and they're the concepts they're talking about aren't particularly complicated, so it just comes off as just like they're filling time, and I found it to be quite boring.
Yeah, they stretched out probably like a mini series they could have done into a 12 episode anime. Which is a shame because like they could have easily done another arc right in the middle and like cut a lot of the fat out and like made it more compelling to watch.
Yeah,
The entire middle was like more dry than anything else in the
yeah,
show. It made it hard to want to finish. Most of us like the ending. One of
It
us
was
doesn't.
okay.
Yeah.
yeah. I found the ending like what did the ending do that was so great?
I think it was all the fighting. Made it more compelling. Where it was also like how he was manipulating his ability to change what path they're
Yeah,
on.
but they were
So
doing that in episodes 8 and 9.
yeah,
Like what made episodes 10, 11, 12 like any different from that?
I think it was more like just that final arc. He wasn't really wait, was he doing that in 8 and 9?
I think he was doing it in 9.
Yeah, okay. So it started in 9, and then um, it was him like slowly figuring it out, and then like her working with him to figure out like how to get to the path was better than most.
Well,
I don't,
considering that his power was basically premonition.
Mhm.
Well, he was trying constantly to change his how should I say this, his future to a point, but it was nearly accurate. That's a,
yeah.
that's
The
that's a
Well,
problem.
the one thing
what
that
I
like I drew on, and it took me a little bit more like it, the more you think like I thought about it, the less I like this anime. Um, it was enjoyable in the moment, but like thinking about it for more time than just watching it uh, is kind of you see even more gaps. The one thing was whenever he was fighting Steel Lady at the end, he had to die to keep getting to each branch, right? So the quicker you die, theoretically, the quicker you can grab branches that will lead you down the right path. Yet he was actively fighting her and trying to, you know, stall her out as long as possible. Wouldn't it be better if like he just kept getting in the way and dying as much as possible to grab
Well,
branches
the other
faster?
the other thing is, so part of the whole dying thing is the amount of life force he loses is what's needed in order to pick the most tangible future, right? Um, so he could do that over and over again, but without someone helping him, it'd be less and less tangible. Because keep in mind, Rika's got more experience than him.
Yeah.
It just happens that
But like
yeah,
Rika's or not Rika, fucking Kotoko is helping her regardless,
helping him.
Yeah,
or helping him. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But I was saying it's like it's that factor that kind of changes it because I'm gonna tie this into something funny that I was gonna mention. I wrote down to mention it. So with her fighting on the real life in the moment, real time, to get that future they want to become plausible, like without her doing that, he'd be on his own. It'd be a lot harder because he
Yeah.
tried that. He tried doing that. He tried taking on Steel Lady Nanase by himself, and that's when Saki and Kodako came across, and they're like, "Why is he here? And why is he fighting her?"
Yeah.
Well,
But
And he,
he learned
here's
how
the
to
thing though.
fight her. He didn't learn
Yeah.
how to like so like she withdrew whenever all of them showed up. Uh, but whenever he was fighting her like one on one, you saw him actively learning how to fight against her and like take the right moves, even though he had no fighting ability at all. Like he was just getting his ass whooped.
Yeah. But here's the thing, RJ. The the problem with that sort of rebuke is that it, like, even if he does just, well, whether he actively fights her and tries not to die, or if he just stands there and lets her kill him over and over again, like stands there like a board, uh Kotoko is still helping her, so he's still getting the help that he needs to change the future.
oh no, I know that. That's what I'm getting at. Like without that teamwork, it would be a lot harder for him to take on his cousin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the point I was making was like he was struggling to find the right branch sometimes whenever he was
Oh no,
dead. So
and I'm saying
I'm
I'm
saying
adding to it. I'm
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was adding to it. I was just saying it'd be a lot harder too.
Oh, well, no, I'm
Yeah.
saying with her helping and like doing that, I was like, wouldn't the best answer be it's like she's doing all the work, right? to like try and change it and go down the right path, wouldn't the best option then be to die as many times as possible to search for the right branch more easily?
Also, why are they in the car near, like, basically
Near him.
right next to this
Yeah.
fight?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be very dangerous for them to be there? Wouldn't it make more sense to just drop him off near Steel Lady Nanase and then drive to a safer location while the fight's happening? That
yeah,
way Steel Lady Nanase can't put them in danger.
yeah. It
Yeah,
just, ugh.
it really makes me think because that Nissan Versa that Saki was driving is not exactly a safe car.
Oh yeah, it was kind of funny how the giant skeleton, which actually is in Japanese mythology, it was it was like kind of like almost accidentally surrounding her car, and she's freaking out because
Yeah.
the thing is size the same as her car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even there's even an instance during the fight where uh well, Kud, what's his name again?
Uh, What's the
Kudo.
what is
I
the
li-
Japanese term?
See,
Black Kudo.
oh my God,
Alright,
he's
alright.
Goku Black. No, he's not Goku Black. Anyways,
All right,
no,
but
so
anyway,
he's
well,
so
hold
forgettable.
on,
He's
hold
so
on.
forgettable. You forgot his name. He's so forgettable.
yeah.
You forgot his name.
There's even a point in time when he is knocked onto the car, blood and all, by Nanase, and like they freak out, and if he didn't act quickly, Nanase could have put the steel beam through the car and killed Kotoko or Saki.
Yeah, I was worried about that. I'm like, any moment now, he's gonna die, and he's not gonna regenerate fast enough, and they're gonna die.
Yeah.
I get that, like, in the moment of watching it, it builds suspense of like, oh no, like they could die, and then it's like, well, there's a giant. Then we just look at the plot hole and be like, well, why were they there? You know, they didn't
Yeah.
need to be. Other than like I guess they wanted to make sure that he was okay. I don't know, like,
But like he's immortal, of course he's okay.
yeah. I don't
Dude,
know. It's kind of,
this basically the tank more than anything else.
yeah.
He's the tank in that group because all the damage that he can deal with.
Yeah. And then on top of that, the ending, like, yeah, there was like fighting and stuff like that, but I don't know, the combat wasn't particularly interesting.
Well,
And
they kind of
and the
established that it was going to be bad by saying it's like
yeah.
he's never fought in his life. So,
Yeah,
I think
but
it's
that's
way
still
better than that, honestly.
yeah, but like it's still like it's still boring to watch.
yeah.
And on top of that, like almost all the dialogue even right until episode 12's last moments is like exposition and stuff like that, like really
Yeah.
just dry boring stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, their portrayal of the internet makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
it was like early 2000s this was written, so
yeah. So back in the early 2000s, that kind of would have made sense, but I'm with Will. It still doesn't make sense because
yeah.
I was very much aware of how the internet worked back then, and IRC chats and comment sections on gaming and supernatural threads don't work like that. I was actually going to say this. This is the thing I was going to say right after mentioning the dynamic between Kuro and Kotoko. The way they represented like the fight going on between Kuro and Steel Lady Nanase while Kotoko is making her case was just hilarious. It was like, this is their representation of an internet flame war. You have two people fighting really, really roughly and wrestling over control, and I'm just like, Should I be laughing or cringing right now? Because
Yeah.
I kind of get the artistic representation here. Because Kuro is one side and then Steel Lady Nazi is the other side.
Yeah.
Dude, I was
It,
thinking the same thing. Forgive me, Neo, but I gotta say it.
go ahead.
This looked more like a 4chan thread or a 2CH thread more than anything else.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
it was.
it's
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
like that. It was more like a courtroom represented in a with like serial experiments lane kind of cinematography.
Yeah, it was a courtroom with a QTE video game event representing the fight in the background. Press
Yeah.
like press X over and over to win the fight.
And then there's all the bullshit that goes back and forth between Rika and Kotoko. Holy shit.
Oh yeah. Because Kotoko takes advantage of the situation to throw some dirt at her or throw some shade at her. Speaking of which, well, first I want to see what Neo had to say, and then I want to say something about Kotoko's personality.
What did I have to say about what?
Oh, the way the fight was really cheesy.
Well,
The courtroom and all
Well,
that.
well, yeah, you wouldn't like have a sort of like committee trial on an internet forum. It just wouldn't work like that. People would if you tried to do that, people would probably just make fun of you and then move on to whatever they wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Exactly. They would just how it went with Kotoko. It was like if this happened in real life, I swear, if this happened in real life, it would be extremely obvious that at least one of the people challenging her, at least one of them, is suspicious.
Yeah.
So,
'Cause-
I really hate to bring. Okay, so there's actually a real life example of this going on right now. So this is like esports drama, but there is like basically like I'm not gonna get on all the drama stuff, but like there's some legal issues going on with one of the teams, and like people were arguing about it on Reddit, and this one guy said I'm a lawyer, and then just put out like all this bullshit, and everyone just went, oh wait, no, he's a lawyer, and then just propped him up. So it like 100%, like I didn't believe that like any of this was plausible, right? But then they propped up this guy that just said that I'm a lawyer, and like all of the fans of that team just took it as like gospel and went, well, he's a lawyer, so it must be true. No proof that he's a lawyer, by the way. Um, no proof, like he didn't like post his like bar, he didn't post anything, and just everyone just went, well, he's a lawyer, and then just they just went with that narrative. So I didn't believe it, but Reddit actually works like that. So there are people dumb enough. There are people dumb enough that actually
Well,
this forum thing would have worked.
Well, one of the things is she makes 4 different scenarios, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't. You know what I realized at the end of it, by judging by the way people are interacting with her, she doesn't even make different accounts to present the different scenarios.
Yeah.
She does them all as the same account.
Yeah. It's this is closer to how Reddit would work than anything, and you would just need a couple accounts. Like you'd need like 2 or 3, and then you could manipulate it. But
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it with
the same
with
account.
one account.
Yeah.
Because like people would just think, well, you've now come up with a completely different scenario to make us not believe this.
Yeah.
You're obviously full of shit.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna discredit that. I'm saying it's what she did is more plausible than what I saw whenever I first watched it, because I'm watching it in real time right now. Uh, but at the same time, like if they would have just went, okay, I'm logging into a new account, like that would have just went, okay, cool, you know. Like we can kind of guess or hope that maybe it was written in that way, and then it wasn't displayed well, but You know,
Well,
it's
I know it wasn't it. I know she was using the same account because the other people on the forum,
oh yeah,
uh,
kept talking to her like it was the same person.
yeah, they talk at the end of it. They they mention how they weren't on board when she was talking about her first scenario.
Hmm.
Yeah, where another police officer could have killed the detective that Nanase killed.
Yeah.
Because let me, if you guys didn't explain it, I'll explain it. So there's this almost Taoist belief of how the supernatural is tied to the natural, and so when you have a lot of people who put energy into something by believing it exists, you bring that thing into existence. And in this case, Rika wants to create, Kuro's cousin, because she and Kuro are immortal. She wants a monster that can kill her, which is, I think, a little redundant because if a monster uses physical means to kill someone, it's not going to be able to kill her. But she, I don't know, like, I guess like the character is just crazy. I want to say crazy because if she wanted to do that, she could have just made up a new urban legend about a monster that kills immortals in particular. Anyways, so by creating these little urban legends online, she generates fear among the populace, and by doing so, the monsters slowly start to pick up wind, and in turn, they become aberrations in real life. Like the first time you come across Steel Lady Nanase, and later on when Saki is shown to be a police officer now, is when she nearly kills someone on a bridge. And that person, at first, they're like, yeah, I saw a woman with a steel beam try to kill me. He redacts his statement out of fear that people won't believe him. And then later he shows up during the online forum and says, no, I saw her with my own eyes. In turn, it's like it's an Ouroboros. It's a self-replicating meme. So she's using meme magic to create monsters that actually kill people because she's a selfish person. But anyways, so the detective is unfortunate. He's a coworker of Saki's that actually has a thing for her. That's one of the theories that Kodako uses. A female police officer may have been the one to kill this gentleman because she didn't want the advances he was making towards her. And Saki's like, "You're basically describing me." And Kodako's like, "Yeah, but if I just make up someone, it won't be plausible, right?" Anyways, I'll get back to her personality later, but yeah. Saki's coworker gets killed. That just makes the public even more fearful. Rika takes advantage of this, which is why I was saying, if I were on a forum where this was being discussed, and I see 1 to 2 users going out of their way to disprove somebody by saying, no, this ghost exists, your logical deduction, which in real life would be the other way around, right? Like if someone's trying to say that a ghost isn't real, you would listen to them, not the person going, ooh, ghosts are real. But so if you have these two people who are targeting the person saying that ghosts aren't real, you'd have good reason to be suspicious of either their mental state or their intention, because Rika indeed ends up being one of the users who hassles her and says, well, how do you know ghosts aren't real, huh? Here's a flaw in your plan. And then like later we find out that Kodako was also playing along because she didn't want to reveal her hand, because at the end she creates a very plausible theory, which I won't spoil, as to how the ghost is a ghost. It just turns it around on Rika. But because Rika had more or less weakened her previous arguments, she couldn't fight further, because by doing so, she just strengthens the last argument. Because what does Kodako do at the end? She points a finger at the website and says, I know you're the one doing this, and you know what you're doing is wrong, and everybody turns on her.
Yeah. But
In real
anyway,
life, they just laugh it off, right?
Yeah.
Like, right? Well, it'd be like, haha, like.
Yeah. It makes no sense. But anyway, we're just about out of time, so I think it's time we go to our conclusions and give this thing a score.
All right. So
we did talk about Kotoko's personality. Can we mention that or no?
I'll talk about it right here. I think that that's the only saving grace. Like, I think we more wanted to rant about it the more that we thought about this anime. Like, originally I think I gave it a 7, and now I'm giving it a 6, and I'm just putting that out there. No, the only thing was, like, her personality was, like, funny. She kept putting people, like, she kept, like, forcing the relationship and, like, being like, the only thing that like he can date, and kind of like being like, it's almost like abusive, but it's like abusive in a funny way. Um, and then like how she would like treat Saki, where like she would just like send Ghost to be like, it's like, oh yeah, just go look up her skirt, she'll like it, like don't worry about it. And just how like bubbly and happy she was, even though like she had like this really kind of like messed up life, but at the same time she became like almost like a goddess. So
Oh yeah, she was really nonchalant when
yeah.
she found out she lost her eye. She's like, "Oh, I lost my eye and my
Yeah.
left leg. Oh,
So
that's a good trade."
yeah, so like
She stopped giving a fuck after that.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, go
only
ahead.
thing that like was really good was just like all of the memes, all the funny photos that you can find about this anime. And then her, like just having her as a character, um it's almost like you would want to exclude all the other characters and just kind of follow her around for like an
Yep.
episode. Like if they would have made a filler episode and cut one of the other, like just pushed it right in the middle, and it just was like her day-to-day life, like it probably would have been hilarious and probably would have been the best episode in the entire show.
For
um
sure.
but that being said, the more I thought about this anime, I have to give it a 6. It's just it's too dry. Like there's nothing there other than this one character and a few good memes.
If I may quickly say two quick things. One, one of the funniest parts was when she's taunting Saki
Yeah.
and says, yeah, like I stole him, even though she didn't steal him. It's like, ha, he's with me now, just gloats, and immediately gets punched in the face. Like she's just got this like childish attitude, even though like she's already an adult. Lastly, I just wanted to say her costume, or I'm sorry, her basically what her fashion essentially. It's very, very, very like I don't want to say eye catching. Like one of you had mentioned the last time we were talking about this that
It was
like,
me, and she looked from Card Captors.
Yeah, she looks like she looks like the main character of Card Captors. And if I had to pick any video game series for her to be in, I said SMT, Social Sense, Shin Megami Tensei, or Persona, or Mind Zero, which is a knockoff of those other games. But yeah, that's her character as a personality, and the design are very like noticeable. Like you said, Josh, if they had just made a filler episode, like it would have been much better.
Imagine an OVA, but she's a magical girl.
No,
that would be crazy.
I think I know the issue. Like the more I'm thinking about it, I think I know the issue, and like it goes back to what I said. It's a harem anime that doesn't want to be a harem anime. It only has 2 girls, and if you watch any harem, it starts off serious, and then there's like it's like, oh, like these are the issues, and then it's 12 episodes of them just goofing around and just nothing there, nothing important, and then the ending has like a resolution, and like they solve the problem, and the guy gets with like one of the girls, right? And that's every harem anime outside of Day Day Live, which is going on the 3 seasons.
Pardon me, Josh, but there's also the fact that Kotoko took in Rika for a while.
Yeah. But
I honestly, you know what? Real quick, I'm shocked that wasn't a big deal, because in Eastern cultures, for someone to invite you to their home and then you to backstab them is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a big deal.
So,
anyways,
we're trying to stay on conclusions.
Yeah.
I think that's actually the reason why it's so dry. It's just like it wants to be something, and it's going in a direction, and then it's like, but we're gonna only take ourselves seriously. Anyway, go ahead.
RJ, conclusion.
I guess that I like the environment. Like, I was more fascinated with the world that they were in, and I like that it was accurate when it came to Japanese mythology, because like like I watched this guy named Linfamy, and he's covered stuff on Japanese mythology. It's spot on with that stuff, but the characters are boring. Like they don't feel organic. Like I just said, Rika basically backstabbed them and is using Kuro's laptop. She's even using his email to talk shit to them. Towards the end, she does. And their reactions are so dry. Like, oh wow, it's Rika. She's emailing us from his email. It's like in actual Eastern culture, Rika would be like really, really, really considered vile because one, she's coming to your house. Two, now she's backstabbing you. Three, she's using your stolen laptop to insult you. And their reaction is, oh, gee, that sucks. that doesn't make any sense. So I'd have to give it like I think I give it a 7.5. I'll give it a 6.5 this time. Or maybe a 7. I don't. I guess yeah, 7. I'll just give it a 7 this time. I'll knock it down by 5.5 because rewatching it kind of reminded me of Durarara, and I believe somebody from that studio worked on this.
And the studio itself worked on this anime as well.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like it was made by the same people, and I guess it was. So I kind of like that, that urban atmosphere that's got like a supernatural vibe going on. Other than that, it was bad. The characters weren't funny. They weren't really memorable, other than Kotoko. And that's it. Like the saving grace is the environment and Kotoko. The music was, I guess, the intro was okay, but yeah, no, nothing memorable. So yeah, 7, average. And I'm being very generous there with a 7.
Right, Striker.
This is gonna be fairly quick. But would I actually recommend this anime to you guys? The answer would be, unless you're a masochist, unless you really like dialogue over anything else, you're better off watching something else. Because when I tried to watch this anime, I was literally punching myself to keep myself awake because the filler was so boring that it's a cure for insomnia, basically. If it wasn't for the fact that Kotoko was, being Kotoko, well, that was the only saving grace of this anime, unfortunately. The last time I gave it a 6.5, I'm gonna give it a 6, or you know what? Fuck it, 5.5. I would not recommend this unless you're a masochist. I'm sorry.
Right. So this show is dialogue, very, very dialogue heavy. One of the first things you would be told if you asked a film writer, what kind of advice would you give someone for writing a film? Or like if you asked a director, what's the most important thing for film writing? They'd probably tell you show, don't tell. They would probably say use the visual medium to explain things and only give expository dialogue when it is absolutely 100% necessary. And this show explains everything down to the most minute details through dialogue. And it's basically the characters cease being characters and turn into simple conduits for information. And you feel more like you're watching a BBC documentary than you are watching a show about ghosts. And it's extremely boring. It is ungodly boring. Like I watched like the last 3 episodes today because for the first podcast I wasn't able to finish the show before going on. so I actually wasn't able to do a conclusion. But for th- but just today I watched the last 3 episodes, and my God, I I wanted to die. I was so goddamn bored. I could not stand it. And this, keep in mind, this is the conclusion of the series. It's supposed to climax here. And yeah, the climax happened, but the climax was boring. How you make the very high point of your series like make me want to fall asleep is an impressive feat in and of itself. And I have to give this show a 5. It's mediocre. What's our average here?
Our average is 5.875, which is the furthest we've ever been from a review score outside of, I think, whenever we reviewed, oh crap, what was it? Devil May Cry. Because,
Devil.
yeah, so, back whenever we did that, the reason why Devil May Cry was inflated numbers was it was only the fans of Devil May Cry watched the anime, and then you get the hardcore fans reviewing it. This is at a 7.1 on my anime list, and on Crunchyroll it has a 3.8, so that works out to about what 7.6 out of 10. So people are enjoying it, but we are not those people.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. IMBD has it at a 6.7. So there you go. I think it also has to do with we had more time to think about the show, and like we aren't just reacting after it and just being like, oh, it was good, or oh, it was okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, the best part about the show, go look up memes. Go look up memes about the show. The face punching memes are the funniest things that you will see about the show, and there was a couple other like pretty good memes that came out of this.
I think with the footage of the real Nanase h- whacking her body double over the head, I
Yeah,
think I think I could like take that footage and replace it with a bonk noise
yeah, like
or something
Yeah,
like that.
I swear, a lot of the violence and the sound effects that accompany it might as well just be like Looney Tunes slapsticks.
yeah,
And then I can do the ear rape bonk noise for when she pushes the I beams onto her.
yeah.
That'd be
So
brilliant.
Or no. For that, you use the dunk noise with the
No,
anvil.
no,
The anvil.
no. I'll I'll make the video and show it to you, and you'll know what I mean.
Gotcha.
But that
yeah,
won't be till later.
yeah. No,
Anyway,
there's enough good memes out of the show that it's like I think the unfortunate thing, and I think we can wrap this up on this note. Um, the memes are gonna make people watch the show, and then people are going to be disappointed
yeah,
because that's how we got here.
yes, yes, it is. All right. Anyway, I hope everyone has had a good night. I hope this was satisfactory, considering we messed up the previous iteration of this episode. And I hope everyone is staying safe, staying healthy, and is nice and happy. Uh, have fun for the rest of May. We actually do know what we're covering for May. We are covering Cowboy Bebop finally.
Oh hell yeah!
And
Yeah.
yeah, good night, everyone.
I'll see you, Space Cowboys.
You're gonna carry that